Welcome to Bros and Sweet Talk. We have the lovely hosts,
Mia
and Jay
and Sean.
And today we're going to be talking about love and relationships and marriage. And we're so excited for you guys to be here joining us for this discussion today. And with that, we're going to jump right in. Sean, Jay, Sean, you're married. Jay, you're divorced.
Right.
I'm divorced. What are some non-negotiables that you guys have in a relationship with somebody?
Non-negotiable. I think the first thing that when it comes to a marriage, you both have to be on the same page with things. A lot of people these days, I think they don't be on the same page as far as finances or as communication or as far as just all those things that pretty much to keep the relationship going. Marriage is as hard as it is, especially since, as far as the decades go, the harder it's going to get because of the new technology that's being exposed and all the things that's making marriages hard. So now you pretty much have to have these things in place so that your marriage can stay strong, because it's easier for you to kind of like just let your marriage go, especially if you're not being focused these days.
So what are some things that you and Aaron do in your relationship to keep things spicy?
So we still date. We still talk on the phone. We text every day. I mean, we just talk all day long to kind of like just keep each other happy. That smile on your face, knowing that it's been all these years. But you still got to keep it fresh to know that you still love that person when you first actually met them.
Yeah, you guys have been, I went to your wedding. You guys have been married now, what?
Some years.
6 years?
Going on 6 years now.
It'll be 6 years. Wow, that's amazing. I don't even think my whole marriage,
from beginning to end. Right. I mean.
How long were you married, Jay?
Mine was right about 3 years total from beginning to end. But yeah. About 3.
I got married in 2001. 2004, I was done. Right. But I was very young when I got married. I was like 21. How old were you, Jay, when you got married?
About 30, 32, 33, something like that. Yeah.
Okay, so yours is a little bit more recent than mine.
More recent,
yeah.
And I guess I got married after you guys, so I was ready to settle down. Right. I was 35 going to 36 at the time, so it was easier for me to kind of like know what I want and how to establish things.
I think our biggest thing in ours is we honestly probably would have took our time, focus, like Sean said, even compromise more. Communication, like to Sean's point, we talk, all day long. And not to say we didn't talk, but it's the things that you're talking about.
Sometimes you're talking
engage,
and sometimes you're talking at a person, and you're not talking to hear what they're really saying. You're talking to respond.
Absolutely.
And I think that was something for me in my relationship that I realized that I was talking to respond and get my point out, and it didn't matter anybody else's his point. It was solely how I felt.
Right.
So I think when you grow as a person and with time and experience comes that understanding for you to know what's important for you in a relationship. So what are some of your deal breakers, Jay?
I would say your relationship, with God. Do you believe in God? So that would be a big one. Finances is another one at this point. Also trying to figure out what's your long-term goals. Nowadays people feel like, I feel like people get married or people get in relationships for different reasons. And so what are those long-term, goals? If you're just looking at the temporary, then, I'm actually looking for long-term. And so those would be some of the big ones. Initially, nobody wants to add on a dependent at 40 years old.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for me, similar, somebody that's financially able to take care of themselves, because I don't have any children. I'm not looking to pick up one. Somebody that has a good relationship with themselves outside of a relationship with me, because I think a lot of people when they get in a relationship, they try and change for that person that they're with because they haven't really fully understand who they are, right?
Exactly.
So for me, I'm 40, so I've had a few good, bad relationships, and so I kind of know what works and what doesn't. And so I think that is a really big factor in being in a relationship with somebody is communication and respectfulness. Because if you don't have respect in a relationship, it's not going to work.
Right.
Okay,
Sean,
so
I would ask, what would be so for 7 more years, what do you think would be the most important thing, for you guys?
I think financial stability. I think that pretty much is still like a main thing that we both have to focus on because we both still have goals. We have things that we want in the near future, especially for our kids. So I think the communication still have to be strong at this point. Like I said, finances, because kids are getting older. You got to start thinking college and as they get older. So I think the things you just got to make sure that you're both on the same page, and also you both have the same type of plans and dreams to make things work. Right. If you kind of like get off these certain goals where you're trying to aim, I think that can throw off the course and kind of like make friction for those 7 years that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Right.
So what about intimacy? Because you guys know that's like a big thing for me is you have to be with somebody that you enjoy being with them. If you don't have that, for me, it's probably a deal breaker.
Well, you have different things. Intimacy don't always have to be about sex. You can have intimacy without sex and still make that person feel loved.
Oh, so, I agree. But I mean, we're talking about the motion in the ocean. That has to be there. And a lot of people, like in relationships, they wonder and they explore other people because they lack that intimacy that they once had. So how do you guys think what you have to do to keep things spicy in your relationships?
I think you still have to try new things, as it don't have to be new, but you got to kind of take the old tricks and kind of add something new to it to kind of like spice it up a little bit, so you won't feel like it's the same routine going on over and over again. So, whatever little thing that you can add, and and she can kind of like happy off of that, just that little change. I think it goes a long way in the long run if people actually think about it. It don't have to be something big to kind of make things just extraordinary, but just the little things that make it count. So.
Okay, that's fair. What about for you, Jay? Where do you rate sex in a relationship for yourself?
I would say, that's a good 9.5. It's high. It's definitely high on the list. However, what I will say, I noticed myself over time now, is that men are physical, so the first thing we look at is looks. If you're not attracted to us, we're probably not going to even venture to even talk to you. So the person has to be, attractive, and realizing that we're going to get older. I turned 40 this week. And so realize you're not going to stay young forever. Everybody's not going to have the same physical attributes that they had when they were younger. However, you can still, to Sean's point, you have to do some things to spice it up every now and then. You can't use your old bag of tricks for 10 years. It works for guys. Like, we don't have to, for the most part, it'll work for us. But I would imagine ladies, it would get, rather boring or redundant. And so, you have to do some things to, spice it up. And to Sean's point, I honestly believe now, at this age, I can honestly say, I didn't feel like this 20 years ago, but at this age, it's not all about sex. It's especially for ladies. I feel like that it starts that morning when she goes to work, and that texting and, like to Sean's point, that talking and so on throughout the day, that leads to that intimacy at night. And so for us, I don't need you to text me at all. We can just go straight to 9 o'clock and we can jump into bed. But that's guys. It doesn't work like that for ladies. So that goes throughout the entire day. Coming home and Sean cooked dinner, for the family, and the kids are, I'm sure that would assist in the intimacy category as far as for any relationship to keep things.
So what are like finance? Is finances important in relationship or marriage? What you guys think?
Oh, hell yes.
Hell yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
No more free rides. No, them days are over. We're getting older now. And so the thing is, we can't make the same, I don't even want to call them mistakes. We can't take the same risks and chances that we took when we was in our 20s and our 30s. And for me, I'll just use my career at being in the federal government. OPM don't play. You've been in a marriage for X amount of years, 5 years, 10 years. They're cutting that 50% of your retirement goes straight to your ex-spouse because that was part of your divorce decree. So for me, you and I need to feel confident that you're able to continually carry yourself and not just depend on me.
Okay, since we know that finances are important to relationships or marriages or your situationship, whatever you want to call it. So what about if you living together and one of your significant other, either you or your date or your spouse, lose their job? How would that kind of like
impact the relationship?
Go on in the relationship, because that's a big loss of monetary money that you guys are not bringing in now.
Right.
So how would that?
Go ahead.
Well, I think, that's going to happen. Stuff in life happens when it comes to careers, and I would be okay with it. What I would not be okay with is that person continuing to sit on their ass, not doing anything throughout the day while I'm going out and making money for the family, and they're sitting in the house playing video games or, basketball or, roaming the streets, but not trying to get a job. It's the same thing if in this day and age, like I'm single now. So the only person I have to worry about right now is myself. But if I were to be in a relationship and that person fell in hard times, of course I would try and help as much as I can, but you have to want to help yourselves too.
Right. I think that goes back to the beginning of knowing as much about your partner as you possibly can early on, because so just taking the three of us, if we lost our careers today, tomorrow we'd be somewhere, I don't care, working at Target in the morning, working at Payless at night, trying to get back on our feet to keep our family going until we can get back into our professions to continue doing what we did to make whatever X amount of salary that we're making now.
Right.
But that goes again to knowing your partner, because if you have someone that's not really as motivated, they don't necessarily have a career, they just have a job. There's a difference between a job and a career. And so if you just have a job, so to speak, then that's your motivation may not be as high as someone that has a career. And so, because if I lose my career, I'm going to do everything in my power to get back into that career. If I lose my job, I can bounce to anywhere next. And that's no offense to anybody that just has a job, so to speak. But there is a clear difference in having a job versus having a career.
Okay,
so to knowing your partner in the very beginning.
Well, how do you call off dating someone these days?
We're grown. We obviously have been very intimate with somebody. I think that's one of the biggest issues in our community is lack of respect for a person that you have shared time with, that you supposedly have loved. When you end a relationship, you should be friends before anything else, right?
Yes.
So when you end a relationship, that person theoretically still should be your friend. So you should be able to talk to them and tell them that you don't feel the same anymore, that you feel like you guys are going down different paths. Definitely not a conversation for a text message, any type of social media platform where you have that conversation with them in an inbox or something like that.
Do you feel like ghosting is really a big thing? I do honestly feel like just ghosting is just a big thing nowadays.
And it's childish.
In this COVID environment, it's just, I'm
but it's childish. We're grown. We're all over 40. You'll be 40 this week, Jay. There's ways once you hit a certain age. I even think 30-something-year-olds know this. That is just not the appropriate type of way to not deal with a person.
Right. And I agree, Mia, because it's like you supposed to just mutual part ways. I mean, you still can be friends after you guys, you know, if it's not working or whatever. We should get to a point we're grown enough to kind of still be friends, even though the love and it might hurt. But at least we know that at some point that we're gonna get back to that friendship level once everything dies down.
Yeah, because you have a mutual respect for each other, and that's why I said earlier in the discussion that respect is a really big key factor in relationships, and a lot of people just don't have it.
Does it depend on the reason or the reason behind the actual breakup or wanting to separate from each other? Does that matter? Like, so for example, you caught someone, not necessarily red-handed cheating, but you clearly see that they're cheating on you. At that point, do you feel like you should have a conversation about it, or is it just going to be more, I just need to tell you how I feel and then I'm out, deuces?
So Sean, you know what I did with my ex years ago, right? We had this conversation. It is not my proudest moment, but I knew. So you can tell when somebody's behavior changes and it's not the same. And so at the time, I worked from home. He lived in DC. I still lived in my condo in Manassas. Mm-hmm. And during the week, a lot, I would just stay at his house. And it was like close to Valentine's Day. And I was like, something's not right. And so I started looking through his stuff. When you go to look for something, you're going to find something. And he had bought tickets to a Cat Williams comedy show. And we were supposed to go to the comedy show on Valentine's Day here in DC, but the tickets were for Richmond. And it was for like
that was like 2015, 14.
Yeah,
I went to the one in Richmond.
Yeah. Yes. Oh well, I'm surprised you didn't hear about me because I'll tell y'all what happened. So I found these tickets in his briefcase, and so me and a girlfriend, I was like, I'm gonna go down there. I'm gonna confront him. So I bought tickets to the show, and remember, I knew where his seat was because I found the tickets. So I bought tickets 2 rows ahead of him, and it was explosive. So long story short, I know. Long story short, he's very tall. He's like 6'3".
No, give us the long version. This is good.
Okay.
It's unfortunate, but
I'm giving it. Yeah. So I could see him when he came down to sit down because he's so tall, right? And I kind of was like hovered over, to kind of disguise myself so when he was coming down the steps, he wouldn't see me. So my girlfriend went with me, and I like tapped her. I'm like, oh, he's here. It's showtime. So I walk up to him, and he's like stuttering. He's like, telling my girlfriend, why would you let her come here? So then at this point, we're like going outside of the stadium to have a conversation. He's like holding my arms, I love you. Why would you do this? And he's like, his voice is cracking, and the girl that he's with is like kind of standing off to the side. And then she's like kind of making, comments in between me and him going back and forth. And so she said, well, how did you know? And I said, because I found a missing condom, because I know how many he had the last time we had sex. And when we went to go have sex again, there was no condom. So this girl says, well, we don't always use condoms. I saw blood red, and it's not my best moment. As soon as she said that, it was like a reaction.
Just the light went off in your head.
Right.
Yes. And I knocked the shit out of him. And he's like holding his face. Then I was like trying to kick him. I'm like, not only are you cheating, and this is where it comes to respect. Not only are you cheating, but you're not using condoms with this girl. And then you're coming having sex with me and not wearing condoms. Disrespectful. So the police come up to us. Look, I'm getting heated thinking about it. Police officer come up to us. You can tell that the cop had kind of been watching the chaos kind of going off for a while. And he looked like he wanted to laugh. And He's like, is everything okay? I'm like, yeah, everything's okay. He's just a cheating piece of shit. So I go back into the venue with my girlfriend. My ex is like telling my girlfriend, you know, that basically she should take me home because whatever. I was like, no, you know how expensive these tickets were because you bought them. So I'm going back inside. So he had the nerve after like 20 or 30 minutes to come back into the stadium with this girl. So at that point, I couldn't take it and got up and left. Mm-hmm. And probably didn't talk to him for like, that was like February 1st, I think, of 14. So probably didn't talk to him until like the end of August after that. And, you know, we were trying to work on our friendship, and then we started kind of seeing each other again. And it wasn't the same. Once you have that,
once you have that, yeah,
it's gone.
Like you took something from you.
Yeah. And so it wasn't, you know, we tried to go back and forth with each other for probably the next 2 years. And then finally it's like, because the relationship is so toxic, it's run its course. Time for us to go our separate ways.
Yeah, so. Once the vibes and the chemistry is gone, the history don't even matter at that point. It's just like, you know, you're ready to just start fresh with someone else and just, you know, just get all that positive energy out with someone else and start over.
Yeah, because when, you know, in the back of my mind, you're always thinking like, is he cheating? You know, like, what is he doing? And that's not a way to live, having to check behind somebody. And so that was like the last serious relationship that I had, because now, and I think it kind of impacted me now, because now I have very little patience for bullshit. And so the first time of bullshit, I'm like,
that flag goes up. Yeah.
Yeah. And I probably need to work on, I probably need to work on that myself, because I know not all men are the same. So I probably need to, you know, not have that such dismissive type of attitude towards men, because I will, bye. There's another one. There's another one that's in line waiting while you're messing up. So
exactly. And in that case though, Mia, since you experienced that, how important do you think NDAs are in relationships or marriages these days?
And prenups?
And if you married, you know, it ain't too many people married that, you know, need prenups at this point. So
I mean, I think when you're in a relationship with the right person, those things they're not a requirement, because you have both of your best interests at heart, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I don't see the need for prenups and special contracts on the relationship, unless, you know, we're both multimillionaires. I
would say, but because having kids now, so depending on, again, what you're getting into. Of course, you know, starting business with Sean, you have your non-for-profit, you know, with your brother and stuff like that. I feel like, and this is just my thought, as you get into these relationships, of course, you want them to be long-term, you want them to be forever and so on, but having kids outside of that relationship, at this point, I feel I want to leave something, you know, for them.
Right.
And not have it. And so that's honestly my main reason. I mean, you know, like you said, we're in our 40s. You know, as time moves on, you know, we won't be here anymore. But I do want to leave something, you know, for them. And so it's not, to me, it's not about, because the first thing everybody says, oh, you know, you're millionaires and stuff like that. No, we worked hard for the little bit of stuff that all three of us have, you know, behind us right now. And so while it's not worth $1 million, I would love for the house that I bought for me and my children now to go to them and not be split.
Generational wealth.
Exactly. So my simple prenup would be to anybody, and here it is, ladies, the simple prenup is what I had before you is mine for my children. What you had before me is yours, and if you have children, for your children. And what we grow together is ours, and split 50-50, because the two of us been through divorce. That can get nasty, expensive, and disgraceful. And so if you have that piece of paper, not to say you have peace of mind, because that sucks, because you don't want to go in ready for an exit. But you do want to, it's just me, maybe I'm jaded now because I've been there, done that. I do want to go in smart and knowing that if shit does go south, my kids are protected. You know,
I think you can have that with the will. And that's sadly in our community, not a lot of us have, right?
Yeah.
You wait until you're almost dead and gone, and then you start thinking about this stuff that you should have had prepared for a long time ago. Because let's be honest, you can go out tomorrow, get hit by a Mack truck, and you're gone.
Right.
And so you kind of need to put those affairs in order now.
Yeah.
So it's known that this is for my children. This is for, my mother or whoever.
Right.
And then this is for us.
Right.
And if you don't have those things now, then that's something that you should work with attorney or legal expert and work out now. Don't wait till you're in a relationship to decide, okay, these are the things that I need to do, because quite frankly, something can happen to you tomorrow.
Yeah, you never want to leave it into the state's hands, because that's when it gets ugly. So your best thing is to kind of like work on things as we're in our 40s, but as we're getting older, you line things up with who you want to have what and stuff like that. So there's no fighting in that family. Everything goes in line. Once it's your time, everybody knows what they're gonna get.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But
that stuff can be real messy real quick.
Right. But to the point.
But I think it gets messy because people don't have their affairs in order, and then and I personally have had to deal with it after my dad died. So that's why now, I don't have children, but everything that I do have now, I've left everything to my nieces and my nephews. Because I don't have kids, but that's something in our community that we need to work out before you're in a relationship. Just because you get in a relationship, these aren't things that you should think about then. Those are things that we should look at now.
Right.
Yeah, and I definitely agree. But one thing I want to touch on about NDAs. So with now social media, people are exposing your business, they exposing all this stuff, and you see it happens every day. What makes you think that NDA is not important? Because to me, if you in a relationship, your whole business, everything is going to be exposed at this point.
Right.
So why not get an NDA and kind of like have this type of agreement where if something goes wrong in our relationship or our marriage, it leaves at that and no one else have to knows about it after you sign these papers? Because the thing is, like I said, social media is such a powerful platform that these things are hitting left and right, and people's business is getting exposed every day.
Yeah. I didn't think of it that way. You have a valid point. I think that's one of the biggest reasons why I said you got to choose your partner correctly. And I think a lot of people, they just jump into relationships and they think, they get dickmatized or, pussy whipped, and, their logic and their thought process goes completely out of the window. I think a lot of that can be narrowed down to really learning your partner. People jump into relationships and they don't even know who they're with. And so I really think that you need to take the time. And people that I date now, I always say, I want to get to know you as my friend first. Why? Because I want to know how you are just in everyday part of your life. I don't want that representative that you're going to show me because we're in a relationship. I want to see who you are generally on a day-to-day basis. And the only way that you really can do that is if that person is your friend.
I definitely agree with you. Yeah.
I would say when it comes to the NDAs and prenups, I know a lot of people may frown upon it, but I feel like it helps both parties, not just about one party. I'm big on and I have this conversation periodically, is that I'd rather argue with you while we in love than argue with you when you can't stand me and I can't stand you. Because that's when the attorneys and the courts, they win. Because that's when we're paying all this extra money that we both could have had in our pocket at the end of the day. Let's argue now over some dinner, some wine, some Jack Daniels, and hey, babe, what do you think is yours that you should have, before we enter in this? God forbid anything happens to you or this relationship. And what do you think is mine? If you trying to get my house now, that's a huge red flag. Why do you want my house? Why do you think you're entitled to half of what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Now, there's people that think like that, male and female, that, they see us and they, I put them floors down. Here's your damn $1,000 back then.
Right.
You're entitled to half the equity in this 15 years that this house has been in. You see what I mean? So I'm big on, let's argue now over some wine, some dinner. When you love me, I love you. And everything, we're fair at this point. You know what I mean? There's no reason I should be coming for your condo. I can do anything in there.
I don't think it's the only word I don't like to what you're saying is argue now. Because I don't think when you love somebody, I don't think you should be having arguments. It should be discussions.
Right.
And those,
discussions.
Right? Having discussions, because a lot of people, when you argue, you say things that you don't mean. You say things to be spiteful. You say things to be vindictive. When you're coming from a place of, look, we love each other and we want the best for each other in our relationship. What do we need to do to get there? Right? And so arguing.
Right.
Yeah.
Discussion.
We have enough shit when we go to work and we're dealing with people on a daily basis. The last thing you want to do is come home and argue with somebody.
And that's another thing with me. You don't argue with your boss. You don't go in there with a nasty attitude at work. Don't come home with all that extra energy. I don't want that. That's the stuff.
And those are great points, though. So with that being said, what about, do you believe in karma? Since that's a big thing of karma, what Jay said, like if you guys are arguing, but we're going to say having this discussion, and she comes for your condo or comes for something that she knows that she didn't put in for it, do you believe in karma? Because that's part of karma. And we can also talk about other parts of karma in a relationship.
This is just my thought when it comes to karma. I know people said what goes around comes around, and what you do to someone else, it's gonna come back to you
tenfold.
My yes, and to me, yes and no. I feel like life is just a life cycle. I feel like no matter how good you are to the world, the people around you, somebody's still gonna screw you over. You didn't put any of that negative energy out there. You've been, being nice to everyone, supporting everyone. If somebody's gonna bite you. Somebody's gonna, come for you. And so I was reading an article the other day. You post a picture online and you get 10 likes. You post that same picture in your story, you get 300 views. People are watching you more than they like you. And so I just feel like that's a whole karma, yes and no. It's a yes and no for me.
I think when you have that mindset, like, oh, karma's will deal with you. I think that type of mindset too, it can end up coming back on you when you wish bad on somebody. So you just say, you know what, I'm going to let God deal with this situation. And one of my favorite lines is, the burden that I can't bear by myself, I'm going to give it to God because he can handle it much better than I can.
Yeah. But I also believe in the universal circle, as far as if, like Jay said, things go around and come around, or come around, go around. That I think I really believe that, because you can pretty much be the most positive person on the world and still get treated like trash.
Right.
But once it's just universal circle. It's going to come around anyway. But the thing about it is, if you that negative person and you're doing negative things and treating people in such a way where them things come back 10 times faster, believe it or not.
Oh yeah, I agree with that.
The negative energy part, right?
That negative energy, that's exactly what it is. So that's why I said, I think karma comes in a way that you don't believe. Like, you might not be thinking that that's what it is, but that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, but I think that's why too, you need to be very selective in who you deal with, whether it be somebody that you are with on a intimate level in a relationship with, but also friends, right? You have to be careful, because I'm big on energy. If your energy in any sort of way kind of disrupts my spirit, I'm going to back away from you. I'm not going to let you too much into my space, because when you get around our age, there's one of the most important things I feel is peace. And if you come into my life and you are interrupting my peace,
you gotta go.
You gotta go.
You gotta go. I'm sorry.
You gotta go.
That's my number one thing. If you disturb my peace, I am out. I don't care who you are.
Like, we don't even need to have a conversation.
No, right. No, so now we can go. Right. Get out. Yeah. That negative energy, that's a whole separate conversation. But I do feel like spirits, negative energy, whoever, the people coming in your house, that's huge. Yeah. That's huge.
Right. And that's why I say, if you have not been to my house, you don't sit up there and call me your bestie or your big buddy, because if you ain't been in my house, if I haven't offered you that space, we're acquaintances. Right. We're acquaintances.
Right.
So, I mean, can you guys date someone in religion? Like, they're different religion than you are? So say like, if I'm pretty much Jehovah's Witness or Catholic or something like that, and you pretty much are Baptist or Christian.
To me, I'll start because that was a big thing in my situation. And again, it's no offense to anybody's, religion, whether you're Catholic or Jehovah's Witness or Baptist or what have you. And even now, I feel like relationship is more important. But for us, going in, she was, Jehovah's Witness. So to me, a big part of what I wanted in a marriage in general was, celebrating around Thanksgiving time and Christmas time, where Jehovah's Witness they do not believe, in that type of stuff. And so that, that was a huge bump in the road, for us. And I will say she was, interested in getting to learn and, know more about it. But to me, it kind of caught me, I don't want to say off guard, but it was like, oh man, like you got to go through this learning phase. So now to answer the question, would I date somebody that's not of the same religion as me or do not simply just believe in God? Probably it's going to be a no. That's just me.
For me, for me, I've dated Muslim guys, and I find that, I mean, their spirit, I can't talk today. They're just as spiritual as I am, and they believe in Allah, which is God. So it just depends on what type of religion that they believe in. If they're atheists, no. If you don't believe in a God and a higher power, no, that's not going to work. But I wouldn't say that would be one of my deal breakers of not dealing with the person because they're not Christian like I am.
What about you, Sean?
I'm in the same boat with you, Jay. It's hard, man, because we've been taught our whole lives a certain religion. Like, I've been born Baptist since I was born. So, we're in our 40s now. For me to kind of like change and try to date someone who beliefs are different than yours, which you've been learning for all these decades. And, you have to pretty much, you might want to attend their church and their church is going to be something totally different, or their views on things are totally different. How do you adjust to that and pretty much make things work when you kind of like, I don't want to say brainwashed to what you've been born to, but something that's stuck with you for all these decades, that's all you know. So now to kind of like go into something totally new, I think it's going to kind of like clash with to a point where something is not going to work with the way it should.
I remember, and there's two more points to add on to this. I remember when I actually brought, her, she's my ex, to First Baptist Church of Glen Ark. And people caught the Holy Ghost, and so we know, all three of us, we know what the Holy Ghost is, and people catching it, in church, and we're used to it. Whereas she was terrified. She Jehovah's Witness, she hasn't experienced that, and so she was terrified of that, going on. And her son was, as well. Like he had necessarily experienced that, and this came, of course, later when we finally sat down to talk. And so, to me, that I was like, oh wow, I put them in a situation that wasn't necessarily, a friendly environment, so to speak. And so the second point is that I feel like now, whoever I decide to get married to, I feel like we both need to be reaching for God, not necessarily each other, but if we're both reaching and trying to, please God, then we're both going up, in the same direction. We're both reaching for the same thing. versus trying to please each other, trying to please man, please other people. I feel like that's when it gets, the water gets a little murky. But if we're both trying to please God and we're both on the same track of going, upward versus outward trying to please each other.
Yeah. And with that being said, oh, go ahead, me. I'm sorry.
No. I said that is fair. That is a fair assessment of what Jay said. I think it's important.
So, since we all, about to be in our 40s, well, Jay, you are, but me and me are already in our 40s. How long do you guys think that, you should be dating someone before you guys get married, if you're planning to get married again? I mean, I know since we're older, our attention span is shorter. You don't want to be in a relationship 5 to 7 years, or, most people getting married before a year or after a year. So what you guys think on that?
I personally think that after a year and a half, you should kind of know the direction of where you want to take the relationship. Anything beyond that, from speaking from my past experience, when you stay in a relationship with somebody, hoping that you see the changes that you want to happen, you end up wasting your own time. So I think you have to value yourself, and it's going to be different. I think it's going to be different for everybody. For me, after a year and a half, we should know where the relationship is headed. If we don't, then we probably need to go our separate ways.
Okay, so let me ask you this: is it going to be a point where how long the engagement is going to be then? Because you have to have an engagement part before you get married, unless you're just going to skip the engagement part and just get married right away.
I'm not trying to have no fourth. Honestly, because I've been married before. I had the big wedding. My dad is deceased. He's no longer with us. I don't want that again. I'd want to go to a destination wedding or something like that, very small and intimate. It could really be me and my husband, and we kind of send postcards to people after the fact saying, oh, we got married. We're going to have a little celebration, and a barbecue or something later on this year. We would love for you guys to attend. So
I feel like for men, we know who we want to marry. I feel like very early on. That may take time for us to continue to learn and grow with that person. But because we're physical one, we know probably the first day, like, oh wow, okay, I might marry her. Then as time goes on, you continue to get to know that person. But when it comes to time and how long we should actually date or be together, I feel like you can be with someone for 3 months and know that you want to marry and be with them forever. You can date somebody for 5 years, get married, and then be up for divorce a year after that. So the timing thing, I don't think that's necessarily important. As far as my own personal goal is to go 1 year, because I feel like you get to go through all 4 seasons, all the holidays, birthdays, and you really get to see how that family reaction plays out. But I don't think there's no golden rule as to how long you should date or not date. And at this age now, I'm not trying to date nobody for 4, 5, 6 years. Not knowing that I eventually want to be married to some point.
Pretty much, we're older now. I think that the time and the patience that, first of all, we don't have that extra time that we did in our 20s and our 30s now.
Jay, didn't we have this discussion a few weeks ago?
Yeah.
We were talking about we got more time behind us
than we do
ahead of us.
Go ahead, Sean.
So yeah.
So I think that plays a big part of people's decision now. I mean, like the older, I have nothing but older coworkers. They said if they was getting married now, they not waiting 2, 3, 4 years now. They know within that first 6 to 12 months if they're gonna get married.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that plays a big factor in
but I feel like now we're more, at least let me just speak for me, I'm more calculated now. And that makes it harder. That makes it harder in dating because I'm very calculated. I know what I want for my future. I know what I want to do in life at this point in my life. And so I'm very just calculated when it comes to who I'm dating. And when them red flags start to go up, I no longer push them back down. And I used to, but I no longer push them back down. And hell, you can be in the whole dating environment forever. if in that mindset. But however, I think that keeps you from settling down.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what is good? Got this might be the last thing that we want to talk about on episode 2. So this is the most important thing. What are your goals? Your expectations of goals of your significant other, your partner, your spouse, are those things are still important in today's society, or you just going off the love and how the relationship is flowing?
Oh hell no! Let me get my list. Where's my list? My 40-year-old list.
Look, when your ass is 40,
right?
What scratched my fancy at 20 is not what scratches my fancy at 40.
Not even me as a man, right?
Yeah.
Right.
No, you gotta have ambition. You have to want more for yourself out of life than I want for you. You have to be being with a man that pushes me even further in my goals is something that's important. Just having complacency and being with somebody that one is partying in the club all the time, always want to be running the damn streets. No, that's not somebody that, I'm looking beyond just having a good night with them. Just to keep it real.
Sure, that's a hot thing.
When you're 40,
right.
What made you happy at 20 or 30 is not how you are at 40, 50, or 60. And so, yeah, the ambition is very important. A man that has his life in order outside of a relationship with me, and they're not coming into the relationship and looking for me. That was one of the reasons why I got divorced with my ex-husband. He was just comfortable just existing in life, and I wanted to, I saw so much more that I wanted to do. Get my degree, making a certain amount of money, traveling, being able to go around the world. So, those are some things that I feel like is very important in a relationship, that you need to be equally yoked with your partner.
I should have took notes for this one, but I'm gonna try to tackle it the best that's the fit at this point. I feel like because we all should not be changing as much. Your morals or who you are and what you stand for, that should be the same at 30, 40, 50, and 60. However, the rest of us, from the physical and the in and out, is gonna change. And you hopefully would have a partner that's going to be able to adapt to those changes. And that's where the compromising and stuff comes in, because who you marry at 30 is probably going to be, besides morally, going to be a different person at 50. Hell, I know I'm not the same 20-year-old guy that was running around, or 30-year-old guy. And so in my partner, I would want to know that we're both going to be able to adapt to each other, and that we're both going to be able to compromise with each other. I feel like I asked one of my coworkers that's been married over 20 years, what's the secret, man? You always ask me, even Sean, hey, it's 7 years, what's the secret? What keeps it going? Because like me and Mia said, we'll get rid of someone just like that. He was like, compromise. He was like, you can't be with someone that can compromise with you, because love is going to go in cycles. We've been in long enough relationships where it's days like, man, I wish this joker wasn't even here. You don't even love this person. It's going to go, it's like a roller coaster. So what else can I cling to in you that's going to keep me wanting to be with you forever? And, right. and granted, I know we made these vows and stuff together, but we're human. It's going to take a little bit more than just us saying something 10 years ago that's going to want me to just stay with you. And it's not going to be your looks anymore. It's not going to be sex. It's not going to be intimacy. It's not going to be what businesses you're on, your cars, your money, your job, and careers. None of that stuff is going to matter. What is it that's about you and in you that's going to keep me close and tight to you?
And that's why I said it's very important that that person is your friend, because those things that Jay just mentioned, the intimacy is not going to be the same anymore. You're not going to be traveling and doing some of the different things that you did in your 30s and 40s when you're 70 or 80, right? And so you have to be with somebody that you can look at the long run and say, can I be with this person when I'm 80 years old? Are we going to have a connection where we can actually still talk to each other, sit on a porch, drink some iced tea, and look at the neighbors going up and down the street? is important.
I actually had a weird dream the other night, to be as point, where I was about 70 or 80. I was I guess in a coma or something. And the person I was with, she was fine. Yeah, all the stuff to have, Sean. Oh man, you got a bad one. There you go. Good job. She talking. I can hear her talking to the doctors, telling her to unplug the damn what you unplug. I'm like, so, and honestly, a big point for a big thing that's important for me in a relationship is, what if I get sick? What if you're in the hospital and you got to talk to the doctor about what's important, for me? That to me, that's important to know that someone just ain't looking at, well, I'm about to pull the plug because there's more money. There's more money for him dead. He's worth more dead than he is alive.
And Jay,
that's important. You're in a coma and someone got your best interest.
Exactly.
30 years later, not the first 2 years where you all love. No, 30 years from now, you're like, pull the plug with his ass.
Jay, and going off that point, that's exactly what happened to Chloe and Lamar. She was gonna pull the plug on Lamar when he got in a coma. So you gotta definitely actually watch who you dating and who you marry, because they don't have your best interests all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's why, again, keep hammering the point. That's why it's important for you to have a friendship with the person.
Right. All right.
So with that, we've had a really good discussion today, and we are happy that you guys joined us on Bros and Sweet Talk for this discussion on love, relationships, and marriage. And we will be back next week with new content. Thank you.
Thank you for watching episode 2.
Day, everyone.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Day.
Peace.
Peace.
Peace.